Just back from IT Nation Europe. What a fantastic event. It was in London, United Kingdom. It's early March 2025, and it was a sold-out event. ConnectWise did an incredible job. So many partners. So interesting to hear different perspectives and different kind of ways on how MSPs are operating in Europe. Still have the same problems, but just a little bit of a twist. But I ended up doing 10 conversations, interviews, podcasts. There was 2 other podcasters there. It was just a great event. My first conversation with Paul Croker, another podcaster, really fascinating gentleman. I'm so glad we met. Sean Lardo was next, of course, with his recent promotions and everything he's doing with IT Nation. Always love catching up with Sean and talking about IT Nation and Pitch It. Heather Alford, oh my goodness, what a great conversation with Heather. She is somebody you're going to get to know and somebody you're going to really like. Paul McNeil has been at ConnectWise for a while. He's from Australia. Interesting transformation from MSP to a vendor to now with ConnectWise. James Grant, fascinating gentleman there in the UK with Vodafone. Dan Scott, the MC of the entire event. They're heading up Europe of IT Nation. Really lots of energy. Great MC. Really made everybody feel at home. Patrick Beggs, of course, the CISO, ConnectWise. Always interesting to peek into security and to his life. Peter Kajawa runs all of IT Nation and the many plates he's now spinning and why he likes wine so much. Mikhail Stefanko, fascinating MSP from Slovakia. Fascinating man and what his issues are there, and I can't wait to see what happens with him. And then I finished out with episode number 600 with my good friend Austin Clark from Scotland, and we talk about his MSP and his challenges. Great event there in London. Manny Ravello was there, a lot of the keynotes, a lot of information and time well spent with partners, with vendors, and with MSPs there in London. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration.
Yeah.
So you're a former MSP yourself?
Yeah. Former MSP, yeah. Tell me about field hockey. In high school back in the States, it's not for boys. I don't know why. Only girls play it.
I guess it's lacrosse is quite big over there, though. We have some lacrosse over here, but I couldn't play rugby at school here in the UK.
Oh.
2 wrong feet for football or soccer, depending on who's listening to this.
Yes.
So hockey was open and my school played it. And I went along on a Friday after school. Loved it. Loved being part of a team. And venting all your frustrations from a week on a plastic ball.
Yes.
And you were actively encoured to do that.
You are.
It was all
good. A lot of bending over, Paul.
Yeah, it's...
Because the shorter stick.
The sticks are different lengths. So you've got to have the right length stick.
Interesting.
But yeah, some tall people struggle with it. because if they're bent, hunched over, it can be quite difficult. Others use it to advantage and go, I can hold a stick with one hand. I've got a long reach. So now I'm even longer to go around or tackle you.
Yeah.
Do you want to connect with business leaders and engage consumers who take action? The Joey Pinz podcast delivers high-impact conversations to an audience of decision makers, entrepreneurs, and professionals across multiple industries. A fast-growing audience of highly engaged listeners, both B2B and B2C. Millions of listens and views across YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Brands that sponsor us see real engagement, conversations, and brand loyalty. Whether you're looking to sell a service, promote a product, or establish thought leadership, our sponsorships offer premium ad placements, exclusive episode sponsorships, full season branding, and event partnerships. Don't just advertise, become part of the conversation. Visit us at joeypins.com/sponsor to get started, or email us at sales@joeypins.com. Joey Pinz Podcast, where thought leaders, brands connect.
But the rules otherwise are pretty similar. You've got kind of I remember seeing like the equivalent of a penalty kick. So with the ball gets kind of checked in the middle.
So we call those short corners.
Short corners.
And basically where the baseline is, where the goal is, the ball is ejected from the baseline to the top.
Right.
Top of the circle. It has to be outside the circle, controlled, and then it can get rolled back in and they can then strike it.
Wow. You ever get hit with one of those balls?
Lots of times.
Yeah, of course.
You can't see it at the moment, but I'm showing Joey my fingers. Some of them are in different shapes and sizes.
Really?
And slightly twisted from sticks and balls and lumps and bumps and God knows what else.
But it's good to be part of a team, like you said, and get out there and sweat and everything, right?
Yeah, it's the crossover between sports, I think, and business. People don't really understand what that crossover is, or there is a crossover. And there really is. When we work together, I feel we can achieve like a lot more. And that's so true in a team. You can be a great defender, but you might not be a great midfielder going backwards and forwards, or a great, goal scorer or whatever. So you rely on those people who've got those skills as well. But you can add your own magic sauce into that and help the team achieve their objective. Really.
Paul, where was rock and roll created?
When was rock and roll created?
Where?
That is a great point, because I think it's merged, doesn't it? Because it goes back to sort of blues days. There's some obviously lots of rock and roll artists from the UK, which was more sort of heavier stuff, not talking about all the fun stuff. So obviously in the news a lot at the moment, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. They were quite dark, quite heavy stuff, and they weren't about sort of like, hey, everything's fine, and like, no, it's not. Life can be crap at times, and we're gonna focus on some of the bad stuff. But yeah, this blues stuff, I think rhythm and blues. We've got Aerosmith, obviously going way back in the day, but they're still.
You can go more than that. How about like Chuck Berry and Little Richard? I mean, when you see Keith Richards, he'll talk about Muddy Waters and he'll talk about these artists. Yeah. But then it was Keith Richards and these musicians that turned it into something just magical.
Yeah. I think before it was electrification, I think, helped, didn't it? So you had guys playing guitars and acoustic stuff with B.B. King and the rest of the stuff. And then you'd move forward, as you say, move it into the 60s and 70s, where it was about, right, we're now going to add more guitars, more bass, and it needs to be louder. So like The Who amplified loads of their tracks, cranked it up a notch, shall we say,
to 11.
It all goes to a different level.
Yeah, and Black Sabbath actually created a whole genre of music with that first album.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It was amazing.
It created heavy metal.
Yeah. Yeah. For what it basically took rock and roll and gave it a real harsh edge. And then that's obviously paved the way going forward. But I was watching an interview online where Elton John was saying how Metallica track is probably one of the best pieces of music he's ever listened to, because he said from a melody perspective, it's absolutely bang on the money. Yeah. And so that's why we hear some of these tracks being covered, because they are iconic and they stand the test of time. Loads of artists have done stuff, and loads of artists sound very unique. So Ozzy Osbourne's voice, for example, very, very unique. You can hear him sing anything. He could sing Sinatra and it'd be like, that's Ozzy.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. My mother was, so I was born in the late 60s, and so my mother loved the Beatles. Yep. And, my punishment was to take away the Beatles albums, So I just remember the first time it was vinyl back then.
Yeah.
And I Sgt. Pepper's, they had all the lyrics. You saw all 4 of the Beatles in that Sgt. Pepper garb. And so from beginning, I flipped the record over to end. I just read every lyric and I said, what is happening? This is life-changing.
Yeah.
This is absolutely incredible. And it turned out it was actually a pivotal record for the whole industry, for music.
Yeah,
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
I think it's almost it's an insight. It's a piece of glass into a moment in time, into people's minds of what was happening, both inside their head, but also in life and in countries and where we are. You can go really quite deep on it. I think I quite like listening to music, and I go like, "That's really cool. What was driving that?" And then going online and finding out recordings or information. Say, hey, what was driving you at that time? What was that sound all about? Why was it so big, or why did it make such a lasting impression on you?
It sure did, because here in the States in the late 60s the Vietnam War was going on.
Yep.
And so there was just so many protests, but in New York City they ended up creating disco, hip hop, punk in Manhattan, creating those music but one of the reasons, just all the protesting, it just was happening. And then once the war stopped, let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
But just like you said, you have to look what's happening around the world to see how it impacts the art.
Absolutely. Inspiration has to come from somewhere. These thoughts have to come from somewhere. And I think it's, as I said, it's a piece of glass into a moment in time, as you say, from the artists, from the bands, but also what's going on around them. As you say, they're drawing on those experiences. Good, bad, indifferent, everything. It's all up for grabs.
It really was. And the industry was so different back then, that they made their money on albums, and if they didn't put out an album in less than a year, that they're done.
Yeah.
Now artists wait 3-4 years, and it's just very, very different.
Well, you see as well, and those times you had like Ozzy Osbourne picked up Motley Crue and took them on his world tour.
That's right.
And then Motley Crue then became a huge thing.
That's right. I remember
and he did the same thing with Guns N' Roses. So he's had such a huge impact. And it's not just him, because when you talk about Ozzy Osbourne, it's also Sharon. Sharon does a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Wife/manager, yeah.
Absolutely. All that sort of insight and additional information and stuff is important. And you don't always see... We see and hear certain parts of it, but it's the tip of the iceberg.
It really is.
It's fascinating.
I don't know where we could be without music specifically, but certainly art.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It would be quite dull.
Yes,
life would be quite boring.
Yes.
I listen to lots of music in on the trains, on the planes, moving around in taxis or whatever it is, and I've got a massive eclectic playlist of stuff all over the place. And sometimes I'll be listening to a piece of music and I'll just be teleported back to a moment in time. And it's like, oh my God, last time I heard this, I was doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And it's those memories. We love those memories and cherishing those memories, and it can spark those thoughts, whether it's with family or with friends or from school or from college or good things and bad things.
And there's the beauty of the art, Paul, right? Because you can look at a piece or listen to a piece and think of something. And people say, well, the artist intended this. It doesn't matter what the artist intended. It's how the receiver receives it, and they can make it whatever they want. That's the beauty.
Yeah, 100%.
I wrote this protest song. Sometimes I'd hear an artist sing. I say, well, you wrote a song. We get to decide. I get to decide what I want and where I heard it.
Yep, absolutely. It's... And that's where great music stands the test of time, because it can be written in one context and do one thing, but it's used somewhere else. And I think we're seeing it as well with the film industry picking up music and using it in a film, and it can put a whole different spin and different perspective on that piece of music again.
It sure can. I like when I go into museums, Paul. It's almost like 400 concerts going on at the same time. It's like I look and I kind of soak in one painting, and then I kind of clean myself and go to the next, and I want to get as much as I can. It's just too much. I get overwhelmed.
I've been to a couple of exhibitions here in London. There was a Moe one that travelled around, and I saw these pictures, and it was absolutely stunning. And it wasn't clear. It was like almost like the haze and the smog and other bits and pieces with these like watercolours. It was all quite sort of blended. And it wasn't clear pictures of things. But this was like, you're thinking, okay, so this was a moment in time where this person has painted this because maybe this is exactly what he was seeing. Maybe it was what he was thinking he was seeing. And he says that interpretation of things. But I find I get pulled into one part of the picture, and I look at the canvas, and I look at the brush strokes or the ink or whatever they've used to put this masterpiece together. And you look at it, the detail, and you're thinking the amount of detail in one small square inch in some of these places is phenomenal. And the artists that build up the layers on this, it's that depth perception is impressive.
Wonderful. Do you paint or play an instrument? Do you have any artistic?
I play instruments, but nobody wants to hear it because it's that bad. I think one day I'll have to learn to play a guitar or something.
I say.
A foot tap a little bit occasionally.
Yes.
Definitely on the steering wheel of the car. Art. I did art at college. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't really good enough to take it further. I actually have a member of my sort of extended family who was very good artist. He went to a couple of colleges in Bristol and academies to learn to art and the rest of it. They sat down there, they said, draw this, do this. They looked at his work and they turned around and went, technically, we can't improve you.
Wow.
You're at that level already. So I have a couple of his original art pieces hanging up at home. But he was pure ink, and was architecture. So buildings in and around Bristol.
Interesting. Yeah, when I get to meet somebody who can do that kind of, I just have so many questions. I mean, do you see it in your eyes? Do you see it before you write it? Are you, I get to talk to authors sometimes, and fiction authors, and they tell me that these characters started creating themselves. Yeah. I said, but you had a storyboard. I said, yeah, I had an idea, but they just, it's amazing to me, that whole, how art goes. And of course, there's the famous one where Bob Dylan writes Along the Watchtower, and Jimi Hendrix hears it, and then performs it within a couple of weeks. And Bob Dylan sees him performing it and says, that song was never mine, and he never played it again. That's his song. Yeah. It came to me, but it's his. Yeah. I'm getting chills talking about this.
Yeah.
Just the way that kind of art, just the way that kind of art just swings around like that.
Absolutely, and it's that collaboration piece again, right? It's that collaboration and that willingness not to put yourself at the center of it all, because it's not hey, this is me and this is important because I'm saying it's important. I see it all the time. You see, and I'm sure you do as well. Other people do. You see people talk about quality. This is quality, and the rest of it. It's like, no. You can't tell me it's quality.
Right,
I have to feel that it's quality, and it's got to come from me, not from yourself, or it needs to come from other people. And I think you can look at art and music in exactly the same way. I've got a friend of mine in the channel here in the UK, a lovely lady called Hannah Lloyd. And she makes she puts these arts up on her Facebook account. Absolutely stunning.
She's here, by the way, this week.
She is here. She's here.
She paints?
She paints, does drawings, does all sorts. But it's like 16 hours of work into some of these pictures. But they are absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. Wow. I looked at it, I was like, holy smokes.
Wow.
This is impressive, Anna. You've done an absolute cracking job.
I hope I get to talk to her. I remember she was in a channel a long time ago with Inbay. I think I remember talking to her years ago. I hope I get to talk to her this week. We're here in London, IT Nation Europe. What are some of your goals this week, Paul?
Meet some great people like yourself. Catch up with peers and colleagues as well. I like to use these. I often call it keeping a finger on the pulse. These events, these in-person events, are so much better than just online webinars where you're just kind of like listening to stuff or get distracted with other bits and pieces. You have to come here. You have to be present. You keep a finger on the pulse, and you can actually learn so much more. And I think that's really important. I'm here with a couple of different hats. Virtual hats, as they say. So I've got lots of things going on, but it's just fun seeing what others are up to and catching up and meeting people itself, Jerry.
Yeah, it is wonderful because, we were so used to virtual, and COVID kept us in for so long, and coming here and, shaking hands and getting to talk to people face to face, there's really no replacing it.
No, absolutely. And, we're all over the globe. And it's difficult sometimes to catch up or get 5 minutes to catch up with people. So coming here and being able to do that is another string to the bow. That's why it's important. We do work and we like to catch up with people that we get on with. And you can only do that by forming relationships and lasting relationships. It's not about being transactional. It's just about saying, hey, how can I help? What can I do? What do you need? And
you're doing some mobile interviews.
Yes. So I'm doing some podcasts and some webinars, catching up with a few people as well. IT Nation have given me a few of their sort of senior execs to catch up with, which is great because you don't normally get to, on a daily basis, see or speak to these people.
That's right.
So I've got a couple of questions raring to go.
Nice.
I'm going to fire across and do that. But my podcast, I also ask my guests what track they want to add to their Spotify playlist and why have you chosen that track. So I have an eclectic
that they don't
track
have.
Listing. Yeah, so it can't be listed already, but there's still loads of options available.
You can go. That's very interesting. You can go really deep with that. Is that your kind of string you hold?
It's one of the unique sort of USPs for the podcast that I have, because what I want to do is create those personal touches with people to go, hey, I love that song too. That's amazing. What else have we got in common? Or I like that band or that track, or it sparks a connection with me for whatever reason it might be. Or I was at college when that was playing. Okay, that's pretty cool. So what else have we got? And it sparks that curiosity we have in tech people.
Do you always have a tune in your head?
Most times.
Yeah. What's it now?
At this moment, I'm just trying to think. Trying to clear it a little bit. It's probably Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train, and that was in my head on the way up here yesterday on the train. I was just listening to my playlist and it came on. I was like, I've got to get a picture of this train. I've got to do a crazy Aussie sort of like face, and that's going out on LinkedIn.
I heard a song this morning, and then I have Midnight Rider.
Okay,
yeah, and I just can't get that little riff out. I don't want to get the riff out, but it just keeps vibrating. It's always something.
It's the thing with riffs; they're just amazing. But it can make a track
everything
recognizable. Two chords in, two bars in. You're talking about this, like Paradise City, and All on Watchtower, as you mentioned. Yes. All these other ones have got such unique beats and parts of the track. I always liked Sweet Emotion with Aerosmith, and I was fortunate to go and see Joe Perry perform as part of the Hollywood Vampires here in London, which was awesome.
Yes.
And they actually performed live Sweet Emotion.
Did they really?
And I had no idea. He puts this kit onto his guitar to make that sort of magic sound. I was like, I always wondered how it worked. I thought it was like a production thing that they added in afterwards. But no, he's there playing live on stage. I was
Who's the vocalist for them?
Alice Cooper.
That Alice Cooper was. Okay,
Alice
did they kind of rotate?
No, so it's the core players stay the same. So it was Joe Perry, Alice Cooper, and Johnny Depp.
And I thought Johnny Depp was there
Johnny
too.
Depp's on it as well. He did a great cover of Heroes.
I thought Slash was in there too. Am I thinking of somebody else? Maybe it's another.
Yeah, there's a couple of supergroups they rotate through.
Yeah, they
Hollywood Vampires is those core players.
I see.
But that started back in LA. They would just used to literally would jam on a random, on a random early hours of the morning after sets or whatever it was, and they just invite random players in to come along and perform with them.
But really good players.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
the creme of the creme, right?
Yeah. So, what's your relationship with MSPs, Paul?
So, I used to work in an MSP. Turn of the century. Back in the early 2000s, sorry.
Yes, 2000. Yeah.
I then finished with that one and moved into corporate land. Worked for Pan-European Space Company, which was super cool, heading up the IT in the UK.
Wow.
And that's really where I picked up what I'm doing now. And it's taking strategic advice and information and putting it down to MSPs and why process is important. It might be dull and boring. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But hey, we need that to be able to delegate and pass stuff on effectively to others.
Like standard operating procedures, like formalizing them?
Yeah.
Why would that be boring?
Because the tech people like to do the tech stuff and move on to the next technical problem and fix the next thing. So there's either gaps in the documentation or it's just not existent because it's in people's heads. I've also seen some go, well, if I write everything down, then they can get rid of me, right? So knowledge is power. And I was like, yeah, but you can turn that on its head and say, wouldn't it be nice to go on holiday and not get a phone call or an email or have to take your laptop just in case somebody needs. You can actually proper cut away and have a break. So it swings.
You got to improve. They don't just stay there. There's always iteration and right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's that level of maturity. Our clients expect it and demand it. We need to be doing it internally to really help ourselves grow. And then when we free our time up, if it's us doing a lot of the work internally, we can focus on other bits and pieces and add some real value. And I think that's really where the magic can happen.
Paul, has there been anything in the last month or so that you changed your mind on?
Probably quite a lot. From an IT perspective?
Anything.
I'm always sitting on the fence with some stuff around the cybersecurity areas. Because for me, it's always a fine balance between security, access, and allowing the business and the company to operate as they need to with their stuff. Whereas the staff and end users just go, look, I just need to be able to do this. They don't have any concept in some of the cases of that why that's not a good idea to do that. So you have to acknowledge that it's not right at the moment, but be kind and considerate to them and why they're saying that as well. So for me, it's always it's a bit of a robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of stuff. You know, you have to kind of address the balance, but explain to them so that they can understand. 'Cause I think when they understand it, they go, oh, well, that makes sense. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, that makes loads of sense.
So the last 4 or 5 years, what keeps MSPs up at night in the States have been about the same. And I'll tell you what they are. I wonder if you agree if there's different here in the United Kingdom. Number one is security. They're worried about their clients getting attacked. You know, they're flat rate, you know, so if they get attacked, they got to allocate resources, clients down, nobody wins, terrible situation. 2 is human capital. If their major techs leave, how am I going to replace them? How am I going to grow without new technicians? How am I going to handle and really, really take care of human capital? And then lastly is just general growth. They're generally tech-led, so they're not good at some of the soft skills, sales and marketing. Private equity has poured hundreds of billions of dollars into the market. Their friends are selling and buying cars, and you know, why can't I do it? So how am I going to grow either organically or inorganically? Do you think that rings true here?
Absolutely.
Really?
It's to a certain extent, I think there's definitely a lot of crossover. It has to be because we're trying to solve similar challenges and problems with the same tools. So it's not like we've got something that's completely different and alienated from the UK, the US, or other regions. I think you add a layer of configuration, so we say, which is regional. So that will be perception, the culture, the way people do things. But that could be different in different regions. It's important for me that when you bring these things in, you understand how it all joins up. I think traditionally we've brought in solutions in on their own and dropped it. We need something to sort out DLP, device lock protection, stop data getting out. So we'll bring a product in that will do just that. We won't look at how it connects in with other tools. Does it play nicely with Microsoft 365, or actually, no, is it too noisy for our service desk? Is it then generating lots of tickets? So I think there is a balance between how we bring things in. But in terms of the challenges, I think they're fairly similar. My mindset and some of the MSPs that I've seen, keeping yourself agile. So traditionally, we'd have to employ that person internally. And we need clients to pay for that specialist engineer to keep them happy and keep them focused on their third line work or the security work or whatever it might be. But now the world has changed.
Yes.
We can bring in resources on a temporary level to service a particular project or a need. So I think it's important for MSPs to not think they just have to employ staff full-time in their business. You can pull in project work. I mean, there's tools out there now and portals out there where it's almost like Airbnb for engineers. So I need a SQL specialist. No worries, we've got one of those here for you. I need an Azure specialist to deliver one project for this company out in wherever they're based. Or I need somebody to go to this data center to flip a few switches. Well, you can get all that stuff from an online portal. It doesn't have to be internally inside your MSP. And I've seen some MSPs who've taken it to the next level again.
Wow.
So they've signed NDAs with other MSPs in different regions and go, hey, if you need to flick a switch over here in this city, we can do that for you. And can you do the same for us if we need it down there? And they're like, well, yeah, that makes much more sense.
We do a lot of that networking in the state. We call it boots on the ground.
Yes.
So yeah, if you need, in different geography, we can go do it. Most of the stuff is remote, but in case you need to have somebody there, we can help. Yeah. Generally, do they help each other, MSPs? Do they need to sign an NDA for that?
I think there's a split. There's some that are traditional mindset and see everyone as a competitor and want to keep it to themselves. Traditionally, they don't go to these kind of events. They don't bother with channel stuff.
Really? They just want to keep it inside?
Because they go, well, if I need to know about that, I'll research online, or I'll go to the vendor direct and I'll get a price and stuff when I need to.
Wow. Others
that do mix well with others, shall we say, their mindset is about collaboration and actually sharing information. They want to do better with less. That can help things as well.
Whenever I talk to MSPs, if they ask me, I don't give out advice, Paul, but if they ask me, I say the 3 things that you should do and will change me around. One is join a peer group. It's interesting how you say that. Sometimes they don't want to come to some events, but when I joined a peer group, changed my business completely. All of a sudden, I wasn't by myself anymore. I could rely on some other people. 2 is get some kind of operating system. There's EOS. There's many different operating system for the business. And then 3rd is to hire a coach in some areas that you need it.
Absolutely.
Do those ring true with you?
Yeah, 100%. Excuse me. So peer groups, I think, are great. I think sometimes people get a bit nervous about opening up their books or their information and sharing it with people who they've got no idea who they are. So I would say have a look at like online community groups.
Yes.
There's numerous different ones out there. You've got Tech Tribe, you've got Tech Degenerates,
many.
And all these
They're
other
great.
ones. Those are just a couple. Others are available, and you can get access to some great resources, some great minds, and it's a test in the water. You're dipping your toe in just to sort of get, am I happy with it? How does this feel? And then I think absolutely joining peer groups. I know some that have joined some peer groups, and they're skyrocketing now. And I know MSPs as well, with relation to a point about EPOS.
Yes, there's plenty of them.
They've picked that up and started running with those procedures and those ways of working, and they're now screaming from the rooftops about how amazing it is. And like most things, they're like, "Well, I wish we'd found this sooner."
Right, right, absolutely. So I started my MSP in the 90s, Paul, and I was working way too hard. I was putting my health in the back seat. I was working, 14, 16-hour days, and before you know, I'm in front of the doctor, and I'm at 340 pounds. I need to figure out what 340 pounds is in kilos.
Right.
So it rings truer here.
No, I know that's it's a substantial weight.
Yeah, substantial. Yeah. I'm about 200 now, so I was 340.
You're definitely not that weight now, that's for sure.
No. And she says to me, if I don't lose this weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. So my daughter was just born.
Yeah.
Driving home, Paul, pissed off. What did I do? I'm punching the steering wheel. This I can abuse myself, but now I have a family, right? So I spent the next 6-7 months, lost about 130 pounds.
Wow.
I think it was about 100 kilos, no?
Yeah.
1.2 or 2.1. Anyway, lost about 130 pounds and kept it off. So you can't look at it as a finishing line. You've got it. Yeah. There's lifelong changes. So when I tell the story, people always say, what's your secret? How'd you do it? And there's no secret, Paul. No. Discipline. That's how I got willpower. I got a routine. How does discipline play a role in your life, Paul? Cool.
I think it's discipline and hard work. You can't get away from that. You can't offset that. You have to do it yourself. And it starts with your mindset. You have to understand the why. It's the same across everything. Security, if we understand why we need to do something, we're more likely going to do it because it's not. It just resonates with us. And I think having a focus on when your mind gets really focused on something, it's not somebody saying like you need to lose some weight because you're a little bit over the matrix where you should be. People are like, nah, it's fine. I'll carry. I'm only slightly over, but I'll get that back next month. But when you're faced with the reality of this brick wall is here,
yes,
then it's like wow, and that helps focuses the mind on what needs to happen. I've had it in a couple of places. You just have to roll your sleeves up.
Yeah.
You can't. I used to be in the Army Cadets when I was younger. My late father was a police officer here in the UK.
Wow.
I've been around military and police types all my life. And you can't get away from it. You just got to roll your sleeves up and you just have to go, right, just got to get involved and just work out what do I need to do to get from point A to point B. I want to get my head down and we're just going to go for it.
You think Ozzy Osbourne's disciplined?
That's a good one. I think he is in some areas. He has to be.
He has to be, right?
He has to be. You've got the excess and all the bad stuff, but then you've got the good stuff. He has to be regimented in being able to record music and beats and understand how things go together and what works and what doesn't work.
Yes.
He excels at that.
Yes.
Some of the people now know that they have to cut out the extracurricular
bits
because
the partying,
they're not going to be here much longer.
Right.
Slash had a pacemaker fitted.
Yeah.
He's cut out alcohol and drugs and all the rest of the stuff. You got Nicky Six from Motley Crue and all his documented stuff, and they're staring down the barrel on this stuff. And it's like, look, you've got a decision. If you want to carry on, you won't be here much longer. Or if you want to make a positive impact and really sort of like help things, then you can turn it around. So I think there's different types of discipline.
Certainly is.
But it's internal. We can't control what others do. We can only control what we do and how we react to things and what we think about things. So that takes a certain amount of discipline. And I think as well when we're dealing with clients, for example, who might be aggressive on the phone or on the email or in person, we can't prevent necessarily stop that, but we can not chuck a can of petrol onto that fire by returning the favour back and being aggressive back. Sometimes I feel we have to take a step back and then go, look, this isn't this isn't the right way to do something, but just go, I understand you, I hear what you're saying, and then come out with a different way of doing it. And that's discipline as well, because all you really want to turn around and just throttle them and go, no, you've got this all wrong, it's your fault or their fault, I've just been trying to do my best here. That's what you want to say, but you have to be disciplined to go, right, we need to do things in the right way here.
With your in the military, your family, was discipline kind of talked about, or was it just assumed in the household as a child?
So there was always a certain level of, this is what we expect from you, and this is right and this is wrong. We always knew what was right and what was wrong, but my parents knew that they could always trust the people I was hanging out with. I wasn't with a bad crowd. They said that's because we've invested in you from early on. I'm fortunate. I come from a great family, from a good surroundings. We didn't have everything, but we didn't have nothing. So we were kind of in the middle, and life was okay. Life was good. Good house, nice area, family around as well. So it was good. But I know it's not the case for everybody. So it's always a challenge.
It is.
But yeah, it's fun. But I mean, I've got kids myself now.
Yes.
And I want you to be the type of parent that doesn't shout at your kids all the time. So I was like, how can I do this? Especially if they're in a park or somewhere noisy. I don't want to be shouting across the thing and parents looking around going, oh my God, who's shouting at his kids now? So I developed a thing with my two. I said, if you see me tapping my head, that means I want you to come towards me because I've got something urgent I need to tell you.
Wow.
So I said, look, you can go off and play in the park anywhere. As long as you can see me, that means I can more than likely going to see you. So that's cool as well. That's fine. So that's what we did. So when I was thinking, okay, it's time they need to get them back for tea now or for a drink or something, we tap my head. And they're at the top of this climbing frame. I'm trying not to laugh. You see them come all the way down, come across and go, yeah, what does he want, Daddy? What does he want? And then you go, right, we've got 5 minutes. Then we can go there. Okay. And they go back off and come back again. So it was great. And then when you need to tell them, look, this isn't good, I just use a very simple approach where I've gone, and stop. And they pause. They look at me and I go, do you think this is a really good idea? And they look at me and they go, no. So why are we doing this then? Oh, I don't know. Oh, kids say, I don't know. I don't know either. So should we go and do something else instead then?
Fascinating.
So I'm challenging them, even though they're young children, or were young children, a bit older now. They're telling me off, I think. To give them the reasons, to arm them with the right tools so they can make those informed decisions.
Very cool. What motivates you, Paul?
I love helping people.
Yeah.
I love helping people, and if I can join them up with something, then they might say, oh, do you know this? Do you know someone who can help with this? If I can do that, that's great.
So giving that, so impact and helping, how do you measure success?
I measured that on people that I meet when they come up to me at a next event or when I'm seeing them in person. Go, hey, Paul, how's it going? And they remember me. That's the magic for me. That's the pinnacle.
Who's the football club in Bristol?
We've got two.
Okay.
So we've got Bristol City Football Club and Bristol Rovers.
So they're which level are they? I know they're not.
They're not very high up.
Right. Are they in the FA? Are they still in?
Yeah. So they're in the Football Association. They are Bristol City are in the Championship, which is just below the Premiership.
Second level, yeah.
Sort of middle to top on there.
Okay.
And Bristol Rovers, I'm not quite sure where they are, but they're a few leagues lower.
And do you follow? Do you go to games?
Not so much the football or soccer. Sorry, yeah. I'm more of a rugby man.
Yeah,
so rugby's my sport.
And does rugby have the same kind of delegation in like they have in the EPL?
We have leagues.
Yes.
We've got Premiership, which is the top league, and they've got division below that, which is more around semi-pro teams. Premiership clubs are all professional. The second tier ones are slightly under that. Yeah, no, it's good. I also love NFL as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm a fan from the UK, so we watch it when we can.
So do you have a team that you follow in the States?
No, I was fortunate enough back in 2009, which seems a long time ago now, to go to Wembley, and I saw the Patriots take on the Bucks.
Wow.
And it was Gronk, Brady, Belichick, all the superstars from the year.
That's when Gronk and Brady were on the Patriots.
Yes,
they soon went to the.
They did. Yes. So they were all playing for the Patriots. Yes. And it was you had Welker playing, you had all the superstar players. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, I was blown away with it. So I was always a bit of a Tom Brady fan because I thought, Jesus Christ, he could throw this ball literally through
yes.
about a foot anywhere on this field, and it's impressive how it plays out. I haven't really got a team at the moment. I just follow it for the sake of following it.
Your brand deserves to be in front of the right audience decision makers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ready to take action. That's exactly who listens to the Joey Pinz podcast. Thousands of engaged business leaders and consumers tune in every week. Millions of views and listens across YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Sponsors see real impact, higher engagement, brand trust, and conversations. We offer strategic partnerships tailored to your goals, including targeted ad placements, branded guest appearances, multi-episode and event sponsorships. Make your brand part of the conversation. Let's grow together. Visit joeypinz.com/sponsor to explore sponsorship opportunities, or email us at sales@joeypinz.com. The Joey Pinz podcast, where brands and thought leaders connect. And they usually have at least one game here.
Yeah, we've got quite a few. I think we've got 4.
Oh, wow. Jacksonville comes.
Jacksonville coming over. We've had, who else has come over?
I don't remember
there's
now.
There's a few others.
Yeah, there's a few others,
There's a few others. But they're breaking out. There's games going on in Ireland as well.
That's
in
right.
Dublin.
Wow.
Melbourne.
I think they're going to have one in Germany, too.
Yeah.
I think they're going to.
They had one in Munich this year.
Yeah.
I want to say it might have been the Vikings out there.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the Vikings went.
Can't remember.
Yeah. Paul, thank you so much for your time. Anybody listening, watching, how can they get in touch with you?
LinkedIn's probably the best place for me. You've hit the right Paul Croker because I've got a bright pink background. And my headline talks about doing IT differently with a cup of tea and some rock and roll.
Nothing wrong with that. Croker is Crooker?
Croker.
Just one O.
Yeah, just the one. I get spelled all sorts of different ways. You'll be absolutely amazed.
Is that right? Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.